Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Actually, it is odd thinking about it that De Niro does one-punch knockout every single person and every opportunity he does, apart from the one person he probably should at the exact moment he should to solve the rest of the film.
What was that point?
It's basically what the other bounty hunter does, punches Charles Grodin the moment he says he's afraid of flying. Yeah, he'll be asleep. He'll be asleep through the whole thing. You're fine.
You should have done a Mr. T. Did a Mr. T on him.
Yeah. Make him drink his milk. Yeah.
Hello, you're listening to episode 62. Hello, film fans. Today on Flixwatcher Pod, we are going to be talking about Midnight Run. And as always, Kobe is here.
Hello.
And we're also joined by John.
Hello.
And Tom.
Hello there.
I've been recently listening to all of my podcasts and all of my music using the Studio Regent headphone, which is a premium on-ear model Bluetooth headphone, which means there's no wires, people, which did scare me. I didn't want anything else to charge up. But the battery life is 24 hours, which is amazing. And you can get your own pair of the Studio Regent at studio.com. Think Phil Collins, Studio. Use the offer code FLIXWATCHER and you'll get 15% off any purchase. And you get free delivery worldwide. So if you are in Timbuktu, they'll fly it over to you. #poet.
Come find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod. Visit the website flixwatcher.tv for full listings. And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us an awesome review.
And as we always say, guys, all the films were available on Netflix at the time of recording. There is going to be bad language, there's going to be spoilers, and we hope you enjoy it.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. In our little recording studio today, we have John and Tom. Would you like to tell the listeners about your podcast, where they might be able to hear you?
Yes, sure. We are 2/3 of Best Pick Pod, where we watch, assess and discuss the winners of the Best Picture Award from the Academy Awards in no particular order. We draw them randomly out of a hat and look up facts about that film, about the year in film, and about that specific Oscar ceremony.
One thing that kind of strikes me is that a lot of these Oscar films are quite long, and you guys watch the film together, don't you? Before going into the discussion, so it's must make for quite some long recording sessions.
Sometimes 2 in a day.
Wow.
In fact,
the way you said that.
No, we started by doing 4 in a weekend, which was. It was very entertaining, but I think we were all flagging by the end of the fourth one, and it was a shame because the fourth one was really good.
And then when Ben-Hur came out of the hat, we did go, okay, we probably need to give this one a day on its own. Yeah, because that is a long movie.
We have managed, I think, a good chunk of the really long ones. I mean, we've managed at least 3 full epics with intervals, and that's it before you even get to at least a couple of the other ones. But there does seem to be. There seems to be an endless list of long ones, if you'll pardon the choice of word.
The Academy does seem to equate length with quality. There's a stat I came across recently that although Best Picture winners run the gamut from like barely over 90 minutes to well over 3 hours, given the list of nominees, the longest film on that list will win about 40% of the time.
Right. Oh, wow.
It's good to know for gambling next year on the Oscars.
It hasn't been true, but for about the last 7 or 8 years, I should say.
Okay.
Before you start
These
running
are
off
lots
to
of good
Ladbrokes.
odds.
Yeah, I think people are getting sick of longer films outside of the worthy ones.
Yeah.
So you chose, Tom, Midnight Run.
Yes, I did.
Can you let us know
Yes.
why you chose it, and also a short and snappy synopsis?
I saw this movie when it first came out. I was on holiday in the States, and I think we were like staying with another family, and there was no scheduled activity, so we decided to go to the movies. And I'd never seen a movie in a cinema with an American audience before, and it's a different experience. They don't
Shut up.
They don't clap politely at the end and then stand for the national anthem. They're whooping and cheering all the way through. And I had a wonderful time watching this movie, and I've seen it several times since. And I just think it's a really, really good example of the type. So this is an 80s comedy. It's Robert De Niro as a bounty hunter who has to track down a mob informant who's played by the rather sort of fussy, prissy Charles Grodin. And it takes much longer than expected for them to get back to the bail bondsman. And they have all sorts of adventures along the way. They're pursued by the FBI, by the mob, by a rival bounty hunter. And one of the joys of the film is the way in which all these various gangs and people manage to intersect with each other and pursue their own agendas while getting in each other's way, sometimes deliberately, sometimes accidentally. And it's full of really good comedy performances and well plotted and great score, and it's a fine time. You'll have fun. If you haven't watched it, just stop listening now. Put on Midnight Run. You'll have a good time.
Yeah, because we'll go into spoilers
We will.
pretty much now. Should we start with you, Helen? You've seen this a few times before.
I've seen this loads of times before. So I was trying to work out when I would have seen this, but I imagine, so what, came out in 1998. How long would it have taken to
88.
get 88, sorry. How long would it taken to get to VHS, do you think? Maybe 2 years?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the
Kids,
day.
this is how it used to be.
Yeah.
So I guess probably from about 1990 to maybe 93. I probably would have seen it, I don't know, like once every few months or something.
Oh,
It would have
wow.
been one of the ones that would have been
Regularly dragged out.
a favourite from not even Blockbuster. It would have been the local video shop that would have been repeatedly chosen, even though I would have been incredibly underage. But
Yes.
I didn't realise then that it's from Mr. Beverly Hills Cop, so it's kind of essentially planes, trains, and automobiles in the Beverly Hills Cop style. So you've got kind of more swearing, and it's a little bit more
There is
roguish.
a hilarious made-for-TV version, which I tried to track down, but I couldn't find it, which, when it was shown on TV in the 90s, most of the swearing was removed rather clumsily.
Well,
Yeah, the swearing is the funny bit a lot of the time.
Yes.
little fact: they say the word "fuck" 119 times in this film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which is not quite Tarantino levels, but it's
It's
fairly
not, but it
impressive.
was-
It's about one a minute, isn't it?
Yeah, for those times, it
Yeah.
was quite a lot excessive.
But you
really.
barely notice that. I can
I
literally
didn't, yeah.
think of one sentence with it because it's a really good joke. Which is I've got one word for you. Shut the fuck up.
Yes. So I've got a little list here of antecedents because I think this is a film which is of its time, and I think it's drawing on a lot of other similar things that were going on. But actually, the one I'll start with is there's a bunch of people who hate each other chained together movies, of which the most famous is the Defiant Ones, which is Tony Curtis chained to Sidney Poitier.
Okay.
But the earliest one I could find was the 39 Steps, the Hitchcock film from the 30s, in which Robert Donat and Madeleine Carroll are chained together for about half an hour in the middle. And then it's also a road movie, and it's a kind of road movie where people make trips by a variety of less and less luxurious means as the film goes on. So you already mentioned Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Also, the other one that stood out for me is Rain Man, made the same year, which even uses the same excuse, which is that the weird one won't fly.
Oh, I had not even thought of that. Yeah.
And then it's really amazingly familiar, or amazingly similar to a movie I only saw recently, which is The Last Detail, which is a 1973 Jack Nicholson movie in which Nicholson is one of two Marines, I think, who have to escort a prisoner cross country. And it even has a similar thing. There's a bit in Midnight Run where they go to see Robert De Niro's ex-wife, and there's an almost identical scene. Like they go to a suburban neighborhood and they briefly reunite Randy Quaid with his mother. And then the last thing is, I think also at this time there was this renewed interest in screwball comedy. People were looking back to those screwball films of the 1930s, and so Moonlighting was on TV. Jonathan Demme was making Something Wild, and there's a definite element of that was driving these 80s comedy. Obviously, we talked about Beverly Hills Cop, which is the same. Is it the same director?
Yeah.
And practically the same logo as well. That incredible 80s logo with the block caps and then the
graffiti.
Paintbrush style. There's a lot of other similar movies going on at the same time, but this, I think, really is one of the best and not talked about in the same breath as Lethal Weapon or Beverly Hills Cop or these other films.
Planes, Trains. And that kind of ties in with the fact this is the first time I've seen it. And it surprises me that it's the first time I've seen it.
What did you think of it?
I generally really enjoyed it. And you can see there's one shot, ladies and gentlemen, the guys that listen a lot know that we kind of have a wall of images. And there's one shot on the top row where the two guys in the coach, and that smacks of Planes, Trains and Automobile scene when they're singing in the bus, and Steve Martin's character sings 3 Coins in the Fountain, and everyone just dies a death, and John Candy revives it with the Flintstones. That is. I'm not sure if it's a trope, but I like the idea of you saying less and less luxurious forms of transport going through a system.
De Niro is so smug on that first class plane. You just knew about the steak he's going to order.
You just knew it wasn't going to pan out that way.
Robert De Niro had just come off The Untouchables, which is kind of De Niro doing his De Niro thing, and was looking for a comedy. He decided that he wanted to broaden his range. He wanted to try and do something new. And there was a comedy script that was being set up, which he actively lobbied to play the lead role in. Does anyone know what movie this was?
I do. It was Big.
Oh, yes.
He was lobbying to play the Tom Hanks role in Big. He thought that was going to be...
I can't even...
Yeah.
Oh. Can you imagine him singing "Shimmy Shimmy Cocoa Pop"? Shimmy Shimmy.
Well, now I think I'll just that'll be running through my head when I go to sleep. The image of him doing that. God.
And I imagine this was then the start of Robert De Niro's comedy career. But I went and looked it up, and actually he doesn't do another comedy for about another 10 years after this.
What about King of Comedy? How does that fall in the comedy spectrum?
King of Comedy is a drama.
Okay,
but he still has to have comic chops to do it, but it is definitely a drama.
Okay,
he's playing a comedian. That's not quite the same.
Yeah. What are your general thoughts on De Niro as a comic actor? Because in this, when you compare to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Beverly Hills Cop, there's typically a quippy one, and I don't think he's a quippy kind of comic. It hasn't got the quicky kind of timbre or speed of delivery that Steve Martin or Eddie Murphy has. So I think the comedy here for me kind of came more by just their interplay with each other and how things played out. So I never really rate De Niro as a comedic actor, and I think he's just is a good actor in sitcom type situations. Maybe
he plays the getting annoyed very well.
Yeah,
which is what happens for this film in various degrees.
To Charles Grodin's comedy man. He's the Abbott to his Costello, or possibly the way around. I haven't actually seen an Abbott and Costello film all the way through, but I think. What I was surprised this time around, because obviously De Niro's played lots of psychopaths, cold characters, and I was really surprised just at how likable he is. And I think you're right. I think the script is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I think De Niro just has to show up and be his brilliant self. He doesn't need to suddenly develop a whole new arsenal of comedy tricks.
Yeah.
He's a very, very fine actor. But I misremembered how just charming and likable he is, and how much on his side I was all the way through.
I think there are definitely a few moments I found in it which felt very distinctly De Niro-esque, but then also managed to have a comedic spin. There's a lovely little weird moment early on when he gets Alonzo's FBI badge and he's walking down the street, and then he just spins around and almost Travis Bickles with it.
Yes.
This kind of thing. This is my badge. You can sort of see that go through. He doesn't say it, but you can see it happening. But he pulls the sort of the full-on De Niro face, and it's a very weirdly De Niro moment.
Yeah.
And that's done really neatly. There's a lot of bits that feel kind of a bit improvised throughout. That's one of the bits which felt like they just let the camera run and he just did that, and that's quite neat. There's another bit which is again a little bit odd when he kind of when he figures out what he's going to do as a plan when he gets off the phone, and there's just a moment of him just sat in a chair where it's maybe about 5 or 10 seconds of him just like moving, shifting, isn't quite figuring out to go, right, okay, tell him I want to make it. There's a big, long gap there for no apparent reason, but it's just him going to see. But the bit that I think my favourite moment in the film is him doing a comedic beat, which is perfectly timed and done quite subtly and quite carefully, to the degree that I was watching it with a friend of mine who missed this bit completely, which is shouting down the phone to the very... How old is Joe Pantoliano anyway?
I think he was born at 48.
Yeah, exactly. This thing where he must be really young, but he looks older than he does in The Matrix.
And then he's in Sopranos.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so he kind of shouted on the phone. He says, and the line approximately along the lines of, "I'm going to burn him up and dump his body in the lake." And without breaking a beat, looks at Grodin, shakes his head, and then carries on with the abuse. That is my favourite comedic beat in the film. So I think he does have a strong comedic sensibility, because it's just a little bit less obvious than, say, the Steve Martin in Planes, Trains and Automobiles, which I kind of actually warm to a bit more. I mean, De Niro I slightly warm to a bit more doing it. I think... Whilst I don't think of him as a comedic actor, I'm thinking I've kind of tended to like him when he does comedy, because I think of bits in like...
Analyze This?
I was thinking more Stardust. Analyze This is a good one.
Oh yeah, Stardust is a great turn,
got a nice little
actually.
bit in Stardust. And
that's true.
And genuinely, I'm ashamed to admit this,
You love Dirty Grandpa?
No, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. I genuinely quite enjoyed him in The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh dear.
I saw it. I had a free afternoon, and he's at least having fun.
We're looking for a new host for the Best Pick podcast, and I just wondered if either of you two were free.
Generally, it's just the fact that you do like marathon films back to back, and
it is a problem.
It takes that time out there. Maybe re-employed there, John.
Whoops.
My favourite joke, which I'd forgotten about, is there's a lovely little detail that Joey Pants is second in command. When things go well, wants to celebrate by going out and buying donuts, and when things are going badly, wants to commiserate by going out and buying donuts.
That's nice. Yeah.
Let's talk about Joe Pantoliano for a bit. That was this his first film. He has a name. Obviously, he takes up some screen time here. He's one of the people you can recognise just by his voice. So even if you weren't looking at the screen, that's Joey Pants. How old was he in this film then?
I don't
No
know.
idea.
He must be. It can't be more than 30s, surely. Just by virtue of when
what he's doing now and what he looks like now. Yeah, because Matrix was 99,
I think. Yeah.
I wonder if he's that kind of person who gets really bold very early on and
tries to maintain it.
But but that kind of makes him look older than he is and sleazier than he is, particularly with his sort of long hair. So yeah, he was a surprise. I mean, there's also you've got Dennis Farina again, who's kind of, and again he's one where you're going, he looks exactly the same as he does maybe about 20 years later. Were these people just born old?
Charles Grodin, someone who I only came to know from
Beethoven. Of course.
Oh, the confessions. It
is, it's all coming out now.
I think Charles Grodin is a bit underrated. I like Charles Grodin. I haven't seen him in much because nobody has. But
so that's what I was thinking. What was
the other one is I just love this as a pitch. The other famous Charles Grodin film that I can think of is where he is the evil swindler and seductor. Is seductor a word? Seducer, that's better. The evil swindler and seducer who is out to steal a diamond from Diana Rigg, and he does this by seducing Miss Piggy. In a big evil plan, which is the Great Muppet Caper.
I haven't seen that since I was a kid. I wouldn't recognise anyone as an actor but when I was a kid, but I want to watch it now.
I think evil Charles Grodin seduces Miss Piggy to steal a diamond off Diana Rigg. The fact that people just saw that as a picture, went, yeah, we're buying that, commission that. That is the sort of crazy ass filmmaking I like.
The other thing I noticed about this film, and it's by no means unique in this respect for films made at the time, but everybody smokes
Yes.
all of the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A
They
lot of
smoke
smoking.
in the street, they smoke in offices, they smoke on trains, they smoke on planes, they smoke while eating. If there was a sex scene in this film, people would be smoking during.
Yeah.
It is extraordinary.
And sugar in coffee. Oh my God, how much sugar?
Another trope in this film that was from the 80s was a one-punch knockout.
Yes, which we commented on, that everyone
Yes.
gets a perfect punch and it knocks them out with no visible markings on the face or blood or
This is one of those
anything
sort
else.
of storytelling devices that we've just kind of come to accept as a thing that happens in the world. If you hit somebody, what will happen is they'll fall down, they'll then have a little sleep, and then they'll wake up
Just enough time later.
5 to 60 minutes later, depending on the demands of the plot, suffering no ill effects. Being hit in the head so hard that you lose consciousness is called concussion.
Yeah.
It is not the effect of which cannot be shaken off after a 5-minute snooze. You need to go to hospital. You have had a serious medical emergency.
Actually, it is odd thinking about it that De Niro does one punch knockout every single person at every opportunity he does, apart from the one person he probably should at the exact moment he should to solve the rest of the film.
What was that point?
Well, he should just pretty much what is it Martin Balsam, the other bounty hunter, does. Punch him the moment he says
It's
he's...
not Martin Balsam. It's is it John Ashton?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, John
It's not
Ashton.
Martin Balsam.
Yeah, it's basically what the other bounty hunter does. Punches Charles Grodin the moment he says he's afraid of flying. Yeah, he'll be asleep. He'll be asleep through the whole thing. You're fine.
You should have done a Mr. T. Did a Mr. T on him.
Yeah. Make him drink his milk. Yeah. Can I? One thing I do find ever so slightly aggravating about this, and not as a slight flaw in the storytelling. Whilst I do enjoy the fact that this is largely a film about lots of different threads colliding against each other and causing problems. So the FBI, the other bounty hunter, the mafia, they all kind of hit each other and affect each other in every way. Every now and then, that means I'm slightly struggling with the fact that he doesn't get himself out of trouble. That I quite want the heroes to survive and get through it because of their own ingenuity. There are 2 moments in the film when they are both basically dead, but for the fact that they've had all of these people set onto them. In fact, it makes it feel slightly bad that at the end, De Niro is so aggressively going, well, you're not going to see him because you're a lying son of a bitch to Joe Pantoliano, because if Joe Pantoliano hadn't set the other bounty hunter on him, he'd be dead multiple times. If they hadn't had the wire in his office being tapped, Robert De Niro would be dead. It's the 2 distinct moments when you think, I just wish there was a slightly cleverer way, or they'd outthought the villains a little bit more. That's the only slight aggravation I have.
I think that's... I don't know. I was not so happy about the coincidental nature of all the 3 groups coming together and splitting apart and coming together, or not just at the right time for them to escape. I thought it was too...
I mean, I think watching it for the first time now is a very, very different experience from me watching it when I was about 10 and thinking it was the best thing ever and thinking it was hilarious. I mean,
I think what mitigates what you're talking about is that everyone is making smart decisions with the information they have to hand. So, unlike certain films I could mention, nobody is taking actions solely designed to further the plot. The decisions that they're taking, which result in them, I agree, arriving at convenient moments, you don't feel the puppet master's hand pulling the strings. They are reasonable decisions. They're good. And I think overall, one of the things I like about the De Niro character is he is very smart. He is very capable. He does make good decisions most of the time. Yes, he gets saved by luck a few times, but I think you're allowed to do that once or twice. I think overall the balance is pretty good.
When he's saved by the other bounty hunter a couple of times, unwittingly, I thought that was... I didn't buy the other bounty hunter so much. Although I love the fact he played Roseburg in Beverly Hills Cop.
But that is what that character would do.
Yeah.
He absolutely would do that. So you can take him out, but then all you do is make the film thinner.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I think I don't entirely mind the level of coincidence. The only one I didn't buy is him turning up at the airport at the end, which just feels a little bit... There's no justification for that other than this is very convenient timing, and I happened to glance over, that's the guy, just at the exact moment.
And to be honest, you could have taken that out because it doesn't actually change anything, does it?
Not especially. So,
I think, for me, it was
it's
him driving up in the car and then that coincidental point, and also the airport point where he knew he was going to do the double take. I was just waiting for that double take of, what? That's the guy I've been chasing for so long.
can we talk about the helicopter?
We could talk about the helicopter.
That was a really good explosion.
Yeah.
So one of our good friends from our film quiz team, Will, has got a blog and podcast called Exploding Helicopter, and his niche is that he just goes through, visits films that have an exploding helicopter in it, and this was one he reviewed quite recently.
Yeah. So if you want an in-depth analysis of specifically the helicopter and other bits of Midnight Run, then you should check out his podcast. But yeah, it's a pretty good one for its era, I would say. And I forgot that it existed.
Yeah. I'm quite excited though. That sounds like a great podcast. I'm just,
It is really good fun.
Yeah, because I'm already just nipping through them in my head. Well, going, well, obviously there's Die Hard with a Vengeance. There's From Russia with Love. It's just, there'll be others. I'll have to have a think.
Does Little Nelly count?
Yes. Yeah,
I've never done that.
No, it's you only live twice, as far as I call it. It's the little mini sort of rotor-bladed. Yes, yeah, I think that counts.
I'm sure it's probably already been covered.
Probably, yeah. There's a lot of James Bond exploding helicopters.
It is interesting though that the exploding helicopter is even there, because I kind of in my head thought this is a bit of a buddy action comedy, and it's not really. Apart from that, that's like a bit where it suddenly goes, now we're an action film for about 5 minutes, and then we're fine. We go back to the planes, trains, and automobiles again now.
Where did the helicopter come from? Because it just came out of nowhere like Airwolf, and there's a lot of maneuvering. Suddenly, De Niro knew how to drive a car magnificently.
Oh yeah, and the bit where it sort of manages to fly over them and get the other side of a ravine without being noticed. Where they go, have we lost it? Have we lost it? No, you've not lost it. It's a helicopter. You're in a car. You've not lost it.
Usual laws of movie-making physics. If it's off camera, it
be
is
heard.
invisible to all protagonists.
And also silent until it needs not to be.
Yeah.
And again, Midnight Run is hardly the only movie to commit this sin.
No.
Oh no, I'm not.
There's some magnificent exploding helicopters that come from lesser experiences, but I think this one was, as Will explained. Helen, do you want to?
Well, I was intrigued as to how it actually happened, and he explained it. The actual gunshot doesn't cause the explosion; it damages the tail rotor, and then it spins into the cliff. That's how the explosion happens.
Yeah. The steadying rotor was
technical,
destroyed.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots of ways.
It's a good shot.
Yeah, there's lots. That's another thing. It's like the 80s super shot.
Yes.
It's either you're spraying bullets and missing everyone, or you've got the perfect shot that does exactly the right thing at the right time.
Exactly the right time, yeah.
And the one punch knockout.
Yeah. The other thing I made a little list of is the movies that this influenced. So we said Robert De Niro goes on to a career which has a more wide range of films. The first proper comedy I could find that he did after this one was Wag the Dog, which was 97. Okay. We talked about Analyze This, and then obviously Meet the Parents, and it's whatever it is now, 15 sequels. There's also about 7 or 8 years after this, you see the emergence of big silly action movies with big stars to flesh out the parts. And that, again, I think is something that Midnight Run has going for it. Midnight Run wasn't written for, but absolutely squarely rests on the shoulders of De Niro and Grodin. If you don't enjoy their relationship and their banter, if you don't buy those characters, then the whole film doesn't work at all. So similarly, The Rock is worth watching as much for the performances as
great.
It is for the action sequences. Same with Con Air, and again, so on and so on and so on. And then the other film that really reminded me of is Get Shorty.
Okay.
Some cast crossovers, Dennis Farina.
Yeah.
It feels like a similar story, though in fact it's set in rather a different world. It's got sort of mobsters in it, but it's got that same feeling of double crosses, coincidences, different parties trying to do different things at the same time, and a similar sort of jazzy score, but by a different composer.
Looks like you've got some new headphones today.
Yeah, my head weighs a lot more than it normally does in the morning. Yeah.
And where are they from?
These are from Studio. These are the Regent brand on-ear headphones, and they're super cool. 24 hours battery life, and they sound amazing. It's all about the sound. Who cares about the battery?
I mean, the battery life is amazing.
That is true. I could just be listening to Radiohead on loop for 24 hours. I could listen to Blur on loop for 24 hours, and it wouldn't run out. Or like Jay-Z on loop for 24 hours.
And they're wireless as well?
Or The Strokes on loop for 24 hours.
Or anything else on loop for 24 hours.
And yeah, they're wireless and connect super simple to my iPhone or anything like that. And you can get 15% discount, Helen, if you go to studio.com if you want to buy some.
Ooh.
Just use the offer code Flixwatcher, as in our podcast name. That's how you tie it all together in a sponsored post like this. Right. I think let's head into the scores and rate this film.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
So these are painted. Well, we've not got around to it yet. Flixwatcher scores.
It cost
And
quite a bit of money. I looked into it.
the first one up is the recommendability. These are all out of 5. If you feel like adding a decimal place, then you can. And we'll start with you, Tom, because it was your choice.
I can think of very few people who wouldn't like this. I'm sure some people like it more than others. But if you like fun and good things, then...
Do you like food or air?
Yes.
If
then
you
like Midnight Run. So 4.75?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. 4.75.
What would be a 5-star film for you? Because this seems quite close.
I'm not sure this is the answer to your question, but I showed Withnell and I to 2 Americans who'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
And they laughed like drains all the way through. So Withnell and I turns out to be much more recommendable than I thought it was, because I worried it might not cross the language barrier, but it seems that it does. Some Like It Hot is probably a 5 out of 5. I can't imagine anyone not liking Some Like It Hot.
I've met people.
Really? Do
Wow.
we know them?
I know them, yeah.
Oh, we don't. That's fine.
Do you still know them? Have you not shunned them from your society?
One of them, yeah, was one of them was my best man at my wedding.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know that offer I made about joining the Best Pick podcast? I'd like to formally rescind it.
Well, because I know someone who doesn't like
Yes.
Yeah.
by association. Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
Hold on. We've now met. So we know someone who knows someone.
that's fine.
Okay, that's fine. Just double checking. So.
It's
Sins
enough
of the
degrees
father.
of freedom. Okay. John.
I think I've got to go 4.5. I generally think I would happily recommend this to anyone. I think if there's anything that's knocking me off a full 5, it's the fact it's ever so slightly something I've seen before. So as I say, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, it does feel quite close to that. It's not quite stretching cinema. So you'd have a great time with doing it, but every now and then you kind of go, yeah, it's just going to knock it down a little bit.
Okay. Helen.
I mean, we haven't really talked about it. It's 2 hours and 6 minutes long. It is a little bit longer than it really needs to be. Rewatching it now, it's could be just a little bit tighter. I think for my
Did you feel that they
rewatching.
went into too many different forms of transport? Maybe.
No, but I think you could trim a good 30 minutes of it, possibly here and there, just with bits that
I
didn't
don't
need
think
to
you
be
could
there.
trim 30 minutes of it. I certainly think
20.
it looks like a film from
Bartering,
the 80s, just
yeah.
in terms of the pace and the rhythm of the editing. You could certainly take out 5 minutes of people getting out of cars and walking in and out of doors, which you just don't bother with these days. But it was just a different rhythm, a different style. I saw an interview with David Fincher, and he was saying that the last stage of editing, because it's all digital these days and you can do what you like, he refers to as frame fucking, because he's literally taking a frame out here and ending this shot a frame earlier and putting one frame in there.
I thought initially when they went into the train carriage, I was like, another one. But then that turns into the chicken fucking discussion.
Yeah, forgot about that bit.
Do you like animals? Yeah, because some of this,
Yes.
I thought that was probably my favourite discourse between the two. And I think that was
That was the improv bit. I think
that was improv. Yeah,
non-scripted. Yeah.
that was my favourite part of their chat between the film. Apart from there's some really nice sweet bits, like when they went back to De Niro's ex-wife, and Charles could see that he was genuinely upset about their past and how they separated, and that's where those kind of beats you probably don't see so much in these other buddy films.
Yes, Helen would cut that out. She'd be wrong.
No, I'd keep that in. I'd also keep. We haven't mentioned it, but I didn't remember it, but I found the chorizo and eggs bit quite funny.
Well, that's,
Where they're in the cafe and they're offered chorizo and eggs.
Oh yes,
And didn't have enough money.
Yeah.
And she's,
Oh,
they needed explaining what it was, and it was just kind of like one of these really bizarre.
That's
moments.
very 80s now, isn't
Yeah.
it? Well, he doesn't know what chorizo and eggs, calls himself an accountant.
The counterfeit bills scene is one of my favourites as well.
Yeah.
They're both having so much fun in that scene. Characters and actors are having a ball.
Yeah. And again, little tiny touches that seem to be improvisation, just like Charles Grodin just talking to the guy next to him, where you just go, that doesn't look planned. Because it's not quite neat enough. It's not badly acted, but it's just a bit of kind of going, feels like there would be a punchline there if you'd written it. But there isn't quite. But that's what I like about the non sequitur of it.
What was your rating, sorry?
I didn't give it yet.
No, you didn't.
So yeah, I mean, for this film is kind of nostalgia for me. I've grown up watching it. I'm not sure how I'd feel watching it sort of fresh now, but for that reason, I'm going to give it a 4.
All right. I'm going to give it a 4, which surprised me because I thought you were going to go a bit higher than that. But I think for the same reason as yourself, this was my first time watching it, and I have to in my mind compare it with Planes, Trains, and Beverly Hills Cop, and Every Which Way But Loose, and those are the ones in there.
Yeah, I mean,
48 Hours leaps to mind is another one. Yeah, I've got those things.
And in that, I directly compare Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy to Robert De Niro, and they just don't really tie up. But also, I think there's a lot of fun to be had here, more than I thought. And it kind of surprised me that it did pass me by. So 4, straight up 4. Repeat viewing score, Tom.
I really enjoyed watching this again. I think I benefited from not having seen it for at least half a dozen years.
Okay.
So I think it is rewatchable, but it's not one of those movies that's you're going to keep finding hidden depths to it, because it is just entertainment. It doesn't have a lot of hidden depths. But I don't think it dies second time round, so 4.
John.
I watched Midnight Run last year with my mum, about 6 months ago. And so when it came up that Tom's Selection was going to do this part, I was just going, do I have to watch Midnight Run again? Do I have to do that again? So I just thought, you know what, I'll bung it on, and I'll just have something I'm doing on the other, just to remind myself of all of these things. And I started watching it, and I just couldn't stop. I just was going, no, I'm just watching this again. I'm just thoroughly enjoying this. So I've got to give it a 5, because I could watch it again 6 months later and just still thoroughly enjoy all of it, and it all felt quite nice and fresh, and I had a really good time doing that.
But that was the kind of thing. So I'm going to put 5 down. But that was the kind of thing we did in the 80s, where you had limited choice, and you would just watch the same film. Yeah, it's been 3 weeks. Let's watch Beverly Hills Cop again. Let's watch Dirty Rotten Scoundrels again, because we have them on VHS, and even it's sunny outside, but hey,
they're always on TV.
Yeah, they're always on TV. And
do you want a Dirty Rotten Scoundrels fact?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is a remake. It's a remake of a film called Bedtime Story, with a basically identical plot, in which the two parts are played by David Niven and Marlon Brando. Bedtime Story.
I'm surprised it hasn't come up before.
Yeah, because we've reviewed Dirty Rotten Scoundrels before, and we did not have that. We had loads of other facts about who it could have been, and etc. etc.
Wasn't it Mick Jagger was supposed to be one?
Yeah,
of
Mick Jagger and David Bowie.
What?
Yep, they were.
Every time, it's one of the things I tend to do a lot with the best pick is I look at alternate casting choices, and some of them are just insane. And the amount of times you will see a list thinking, wow, this is clearly been plotted by an idiot. I think that the two favourite ones I've ever seen, one was, we had recently Schindler's List, and one of the original casting options for that was Mel Gibson. That would have worked out terribly well in the remaining years, wouldn't it? That one's automatically funny. My favourite, I think, of all time is when they were planning to do a sequel to Mary Poppins, and I think they'd got Julie Andrews back. This was in the 80s. And for some reason, they weren't going to go with Dick Van Dyke. I think they wanted to aim it a bit younger, a bit trendier, try and get people interested. And so they went with, I think, Bert the Sweep's brother or cousin, some relation of Bert the Sweep. And they were going to have that part played by Michael Jackson. I wish I was making that up.
And we talked about the abomination that would have been big had Robert De Niro.
Yes.
That just sounds atrocious.
It's always hard to know how seriously these things have been contemplated. There are lots of screen tests floating around the internet for people who look like they're auditioning to play James Bond in the 80s. What these screen tests don't tell you is that Roger Moore refused to sign multi-picture deals.
Oh right, so just one at
So
a time.
there was this game of poker
scaring
between the producers and the actor. The Roger Moore saying, "Well, maybe I won't come back for another one," and then Broccoli saying, "Well, maybe we don't need you." And so some of these auditions may simply be trying to drive Roger Moore's price down.
There's another great one which I know of an actor, and I won't mention his name because it's his story, and I don't necessarily want to. But he turned down the role of, I think it was like the submarine or boat captain at the beginning of Tomorrow Never Dies, because he quite fancied the idea of playing James Bond at some point. He hasn't, it's not that famous. But then what he did, because the producers liked him and thought he was quite posh and quite sort of English, they basically got him to read in with all the Bond girls. And at least one of them went completely nuts, just like draping herself over him and snogging his face off for ages. Whilst all the crew are just apparently like raising thumbs up at him from behind the camera whilst he's desperately trying to get out of the room. Yeah, so that might be another one. Somebody who go, this looks like it's a screen test for a joke, but it's really not. It's assault.
Helen.
So yes, repeat viewing.
score.
I mean, I'd love to know how many times I've actually seen this. I mean, we must be at least 10 plus, maybe more than that. I mean, there's a lot of
It
weekends.
is. If you watched this in the 80s for the first time, you've watched it, double digits.
Do I need to? I don't know how soon I need to see it again. I probably would watch it again. I'm gonna go 4.
All right. It's gonna be lower than you guys, but I think I do need to watch it again because I think there's probably a few things I missed, or my frame of mind wasn't quite with it, or still being put off by De Niro in a comedic role, not being Eddie Murphy, not being Steve Martin, which is, I don't know, it's very harsh on me, I think. But I think there's a lot.
I think that's a little bit harsh. I mean, De Niro had never really done a film like this, so it was quite kind of a change for him, especially if you've been watching his fills in sequence.
Then,
This was the first Robert De Niro film I ever saw.
That's it.
So I was reading stuff like, Robert De Niro does a comedy. I was going, well, he always seems kind of funny to me. Then later, watching Taxi Driver, going, oh.
And Godfather. Oh, Godfather. Yeah, okay. What did I say? I guess my own mind.
Did you say 4? Did you say 4?
I didn't say 4. No, it wasn't that high.
You're going a bit lower. You didn't say it yet. We hadn't had the big
3.6,
reveal.
I'll say. Yeah.
Okay.
Or 36 as I've typed in the thing. A small screen score.
The one serious criticism I have of this film is it looks a bit shit. It looks like it was made for TV. There's no interesting lighting in this. Everything's just flat. Even the camera work isn't particularly ace. What this does mean is it loses nothing at all on the small screen. 5.
John.
Yeah, I think Tom's persuaded me. I think I've got to go 5. Yeah, I think I would agree. It doesn't seem to particularly feel that cinematic. Obviously, I wouldn't have never seen it at the cinema, but I think I'd go 5.
Helen.
I've only ever seen it on TV screens of varying size. None of them were particularly huge. 5. And also, I think it's quite nice because I don't think there's that many De Niro films on Netflix anyway. So, and also, if for example, they're like you, Kobe, and you've never seen it, it is kind of one of those kind of quirky, funny films from the 80s that you should watch, especially if you kind of think of De Niro now as what he is, or you've only really watched
Grudge Match, Bad Grandpa, Dirty Grandpa.
I can't remember the last
Meet the Fockers.
new De Niro film that I've watched, and it's you just think, oh God, why?
Yeah, because Pacino went down the hill of getting to bed with Adam Sandler, didn't he, for Jack and Jill?
Oh God, I don't even.
De Niro's
even the trailer just made me
Pacino's not
vomit.
had a good
trailer?
film in a long, long time.
De Niro? Pacino?
Pacino.
There must be something. Guys, if you're listening...
Pacino's doing his first film with Martin Scorsese at the moment. It's called
He
The
is.
Irishman.
Yes.
So who knows, that might be a return to form.
Yeah, I just think Pacino's been so bad for so long. It's actually making me feel worried for Scorsese.
on the subject of Pacino, he was in Scent of a Woman, which Martin Brest also directed.
Yeah,
So
good call. Good shout. Did that win?
he won the Oscar.
He won the
Best
Oscar.
actor,
Yeah.
finally.
Small screen
Hoo-ha.
score.
Just that's the throwback to Scent of a Woman. It's your turn. Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 5.
Yeah, let's go for 5. Solid. Like you said, I think you hit it properly there, Tom. There's nothing really.
I mean, it has got an
dazzling.
explosion in it, though.
Yeah, but the explosion was it was good. It was good, solid, strong explosion. It looked like a real explosion. It wasn't obviously CGI type thing, but it was well contained within that chasmy, cliffy, fjordy bit.
You can imagine the A-Team pulling that off.
Yeah,
at the end of a season.
That's right. Yeah, end of season special. The budgets are higher for this episode, guys. So there will be stock footage borrowed from another film.
Yeah, they'd have pulled it off by using the footage from Midnight Run.
Yeah, just like a mirror image.
Yeah.
Only they had a time machine. But anyway,
I thought, did anyone else think, maybe you guys have to cast back to the first time you saw this, that he was aiming initially for the person who had the gun trained on Charles Grodin? I didn't at any point think he was training his gun on the rear rotor. That must be a much harder shot.
I certainly wasn't confused this time around.
No.
I don't remember thinking anything other than he's shooting at the helicopter.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, okay.
I think the moment he shot and they cut to a shot of the blade, I figured it out pretty much. I'm quick like that.
That's the power of editing.
Yeah.
Engagement score. Tom.
I mean, yeah, it's a hugely entertaining film. It will keep you watching. Again, I think very, very, very close to perfect. I'll go 4.75 again.
Mm-hmm.
Does everything it's setting out to do. Well, yeah, maybe it's not going to enrich your worldview about anything important. It's not going to haunt your dreams with its epic beauty, but it is really solidly entertaining and well made all the way through.
Yeah, I think one of the things I noticed when I was watching it was that it's very distinctly one of those films you might be able to use to illustrate the sort of standard Hollywood formula shape of the 3 acts thing. There's a very clear demarking point and pretty much every half hour you have 30 minutes in, he gets Grodin, an hour in, it's the visit to the family in Chicago. 30 minutes from the end, it's when he's lost Grodin. So it's absolutely got this. And the reason that formula is successful is because it does work as getting you, grabbing you, pulling you through. The only thing that probably would knock it down from a massively high score for me is the fact that I did manage to stop watching it twice when I was prepping it for this. So that knocks it down to a 4. Admittedly, that's slightly unfair because I saw it last year. And that time I think I did watch all the way through, but I'm going 4.
Helen?
I'm going to give it a 3 this time because I've seen it so many times. I was kind of half on the TV, half.
That's not Midnight Run's fault.
I think watching it now, it is. I found that some of it was a little bit flabbier, and I did kind of get sucked into reading trivia about it while I was watching it because I kind of knew what was going on. So I can't say that I gave it 100% attention this time round. Had I watched it the first time round with new eyes, I might be a bit more, but yeah, 3.
Gonna give it 3.5. I think the benefit of it being a new film for me, so more involved. And I think, to be honest, the next time I watch it, I think I'll be quite highly engaged there. I think because there'll be things I missed and didn't pick up maybe on the first couple of times. It's not super layered, but at the same time, it's not the disbenefit of Steve Martin and
you just want this. Do you want this film remade?
No.
With Steve Martin in it.
Let me play this out. The disbenefit, if that's even a word, is that those two guys, they say everything's front and center and very, very clear and very, very in your face, whereas there's a lot more subtle the things that are going on here with Charles Grodin and some of the comments you made about the looks and how they played off against each other, I think would give it more longevity than some other films. Again, I've forgotten the score I've given it. Was it just more than you? Let's go for 3.5 maybe? That gives an overall score of 4.33.
That's pretty
That
high.
feels fair.
Yeah.
It's a very solid film.
Cool.
Guys, that was really enjoyable. Thank you very much for picking it.
Thank
Tom.
you for having us.
Let us know where we can find you online, on Twitters, on Instagrams.
Well, we can be found at Best Pick Pod on
and
the
pick
Twitter.
with PICK.
PICK, yes. We spent so long discussing what's the best version. Is it PIC or is it PICK? And that we went PICK because that is an actual pun. That is an actual play on words. The other one just isn't.
Or type best pick into your podcast catching device of choice. It will come up.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. As always, you can find us on iTunes. Do subscribe and leave us a nice review if you feel like it. You can find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, and the website is flixwatcher.tv. Thanks, as always, to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and thanks to Brendan Russell for his awesome editing skills.